This naturalrefrigerants.com article is being read by an automated voice. EIA urges UK to adopt national cooling plan that includes natural refrigerants by Michael Gary, published July 9, 2026. The Environmental Investigation Agency, EIA's London office, has released a briefing urging the UK government to publish a national cooling action plan that, among other things, calls for an accelerated phase-out of F-gases and the adoption of natural refrigerants. The briefing, called UK Cooling Policy in a Warming World, comes in the wake of recent punishing heat waves that follow a pattern of higher ambient temperatures. The UK has warmed by approximately 0.25 degrees Celsius, 0.45 degrees Fahrenheit, per decade since the 1980s and is warming faster than the global average, said the briefing. More frequent and intense heat waves are already causing thousands of excess deaths each year, while overheating affects a growing proportion of homes, workplaces, and public buildings. The UK was one of the first countries at the 2023 UN Climate Change Conference, COP28, to sign the Global Cooling Pledge, a commitment to cut cooling-related CO2e emissions by 68% by 2050, while rapidly expanding access to sustainable cooling. The pledge included publication by 2026 of a national cooling action plan, but the UK has not yet published its plan, noted the EIA. The UK government has promised to deliver a cooling outlook document this year, but EIA regards that as fragmented and inadequate. The EIA's report refers to the work of the UK's Climate Change Committee, CCC, an independent advisory body established under the UK's Climate Change Act of 2009. In May, the CCC published its fourth independent assessment, UK Climate Risk, CCRA 4-IA, a well-adapted UK, which noted that improving cooling is essential for climate resilience and adaptation, including an increased uptake of air conditioning. In February, CCC issued the seventh carbon budget. In its report, the EIA encourages the UK to minimize active cooling, particularly air conditioning, by supporting passive cooling measures in new and retrofit buildings such as external shading, cool roofs, solar control glass, and increased ventilation. It also calls for expansion of urban greening, shading, and nature-based cooling solutions. Reliance on air conditioning should not become the default adaptation response, the report said, adding that an over-reliance on conventional air conditioning risks locking the UK into decades of additional emissions from energy use and F-gases. However, where air conditioning is needed, the report urges the replacement of F-gases, both high GWP HFC and HFOS, with natural refrigerants, including mandatory energy efficiency standards. The UK F-gas regulation must be urgently reviewed to accelerate the HFC phase-out, align with the EU framework updated F-gas regulation, and implement bans on F-gases in cooling equipment to ensure the transition to natural refrigerants, the EIA said. The report noted that HFOs, while low GWP, can escape into the atmosphere and break down into trifluoroacetic acid, TFA, a PFAS, per- and polyfluoroalkyl substance, pollutant that has infiltrated the natural environment. There are low GWP alternatives to HFCs for air conditioning and heat pump applications. Natural refrigerants, non-fluorinated refrigerants such as propane, carbon dioxide, and ammonia, which have been widely used in refrigeration and could be increasingly used in space cooling and heating, the briefing said. Heat pump rollout. EIA pointed to the need for natural refrigerant-based heat pumps as the country seeks to decarbonize heating. The UK's heat and building strategy aims to roll out 600,000 hydronic heat pump systems per year by 2028, so it is critical to do this without locking in additional HFC consumption and emissions, the report said. In addition, it said, recently introduced subsidies for heat pumps under the boiler upgrade scheme should be revisited to prioritize F-gas-free heating and cooling models. Government-approved prohibitions on a broad range of cooling equipment containing F-gases will be a critical signpost for manufacturers and end users, driving green innovation and enabling timely investment decisions, the report said. In the EU, anticipation of upcoming F-gas bans has resulted in the adoption of residential propane heat pumps models, with their market share increasing from 3% in 2021 to 38% in 2024, the report noted. The EIA also calls for an expansion of district cooling and integrated heating and cooling networks, along with temperature management standards in commercial and public buildings. In addition, highly efficient fans can avoid air conditioning, while hybrid systems, combining low-energy fans and/or evaporative coolers with air conditioning, can greatly reduce the energy used, it said. Mandatory training and certification. The EIA pointed out the adoption of natural refrigerants should be accompanied by the development of a skilled workforce through mandatory training and certification. The UK government needs to encourage an increase in skilled installers, able to address the expected rollout of heating and cooling technologies, the EIA said, adding research from the UK DESNZ, Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, in 2023 found that two-thirds of the heating and cooling workforce were aged over 45, with two-fifths of those surveyed planning to leave the sector in the next decade. As part of a national cooling action plan, EIA recommended addressing the equity gap between those who can and can't afford air conditioning. Cooling should be recognized as a public health and equity issue, with priority support for low-income households, older people, and heat-vulnerable communities, the briefing said. This would include ensuring access to cooling shelters and community cool spaces. Another goal cited by the EIA was enhancing public awareness and behavioral change. Heat must be treated as a major public health risk, supported by stronger communication of risks and needs to adapt behavior, the report stated. Heat resilience should be embedded across workplaces, schools, and community planning to improve preparedness and reduce harm.